myself again. But it's the only
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. Steve Wraith. It's Tuesday night. Liam Kennedy's on eventually. I'm not going to tell people why you were late, mate, but
I don't mind. Oh, it was a nightmare, honestly, right? Everyone else, you can imagine, I've had a pretty busy day, right? So what I thought was, being a clever dick, I thought I'll put a pizza in the oven for the Bairns. So I put it in, ran upstairs, was finishing the story off, ran back downstairs, pulled out the oven, was black, big black pizza. So I had to run to the kitchen and get the tea for them. That's why I'm 10 minutes late. Genuinely, that's the truth.
Absolute classic, mate. Absolute classic. Good to have you on, mate. And somebody did say on Twitter today that, there's always something going on a Tuesday. Guarantee something will break the day. And we just, we laugh at it because people almost feel, it almost feels as if we're doing it deliberately. But again, Liam, another big story to open tonight's show with.
Not just one, but two this week. And potentially more to come as well. Massive breaking news today. Obviously, the Premier League responded to NCSL. For anybody who's in really any doubt out there that the Premier League aren't taking this seriously, they really, really are. It was a 9-page response. A rebuttal of the claims, of course, but that is nothing that NCSL did not expect. There's nothing in there that surprised them, apart from a couple of bits, which we'll come on to, which is the second big story. But so they've had the response, and it's all guns blazing, all wheels in motion, and just cracking on towards the end goal. They want this takeover as much as we do, and as much as the rest of the fan base do, and as much as, for example, 97% of NUST members said they wanted this takeover. That's just a reflection on how many NUST members, how many Newcastle United fans actually want this takeover to go through. The response drew no surprises. Like I said, it was the Premier League sort of holding their guns, really, saying that, look, we've got nothing to answer here. A few bits and bobs that they've thrown in there. But I think we're moving forward, and I think that's the one thing that we can really take from this, and that brings us almost on to the second story, which is the bigger one altogether. Within that letter, the Premier League confirmed that Newcastle United are currently taking legal action, and that is active at the moment. So not only is there one movement of legal action from the fans, there's legal action from the Premier towards the Premier League from Newcastle United as well. Now, the Premier League revealed that. We've seen lots of speculation in the press. It's been our understanding that was the case, but due to confidentiality, nobody's talked about it. Newcastle United have never talked about it. Mike Ashley only ever talked about doing every means necessary to get what he wanted in this deal. The statement from Blackstone Chambers, which sort of everybody jumped on that Monday morning when the QCs were announced, that came from Blackstone Chambers, and proceedings weren't active then. So that was them saying that they were acting on behalf and advising Mike Ashley on this process. What the Premier League have done today has gone well beyond that. They've actually revealed in a letter to two fans, NCSL, Gordon Steen and Keith Patterson, they've revealed some confidential information about Newcastle United Football Club. That Newcastle United Football Club, they have a legal action ongoing with the Premier League. And they kind of try to say the way they did it, that's wrong enough. But the second bit really that I'm going to come on to is they said that's legal action, and they almost said, well, just get in line then. We'll deal with that one first, then we'll deal with you. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. You can't decide who you've wronged and when, in what order they decide to come at you. If you've wronged somebody and they believe they're wrong, you don't decide, we'll deal with that one first, then we'll deal with you after. No, that's not how it works. So I think there's a large amount of arrogance with the Premier League in the responses. Transparency is something that we've always really struggled with the Premier League. To be honest, they're briefing on this. We've seen some Ben Jacobs tweets out there. He talks about speaking to a Premier League source who effectively, in his tweets, when you read them, has talked him through the letter sent to NCSL. That in itself is a breach of confidentiality. Incredible stuff. It really is. They do not know how to deal with things professionally. Haven't got a clue. But does that really surprise me? No, it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me, because I've only in my brief encounters with people involved in this deal, talking to sources, do you really get a sense that how wrong things have been done, how wrong the Premier League have been throughout this process? The lack of transparency is because they're probably hiding things. Everybody needs to get that in their head. And I've always said through this, if you're going to read my two stories today and look at the tweets that NCSL have put out there, please join the dots. Just join the dots, and you'll soon be able to work out what's at play here. It isn't as basic and straightforward as you think, nor is it as ridiculously complicated as some people keep tweeting me. Join the dots. Love it. It is. You've just got it. They're pretty straightforward. There's 2 arms and 2 legs. Work it out. The dots aren't hard to join if you've got your head screwed on. So that's the 2 stories today, Steve. Confidentiality does not exist. It doesn't exist with the Premier League. They've got absolutely no clue how to work around these things, revealing confidential information about Newcastle United to the fans. Again, people around the deal are far from happy about this. They're not happy that the Premier League have released this information against their will. So they'll feel the wrath of that as well, I'm afraid. And then also the fact that the Premier League have responded to NCSL, and then prior to that being released, have actually leaked information to a journalist who used to work for beIN Sports, by the way, has got a really discredited career in terms of he's actually banned by the BBC because of his indiscretions in the past. So it's not the best place to be leaking it, but they have leaked that information, which again is another breach of confidentiality. Incredible stuff. But this is just the tip of the iceberg with this governing body. They do not know how to act professionally.
Yeah, it is like carry on the Premier League, as Daniel Fox says. And just a quick one on that image that I put up. That's our latest food bank T-shirt. And I think this will be a popular one because we're not going to make any more. We may make one for Liam, just for his own personal collection. But there will only be, I would say, 2 made. So I'm going to stick that on my Twitter. Now, I know I've had to lock my Twitter down this week. But I think you will still be able to reply to bid. So I'm going to stick that up tonight. It's going to go onto my Twitter. All proceeds go to the food bank. I think we've made something in the region of £800 so far off all the T-shirts that have been bought from the 3 amigos. But this is our first branch into something different. So yeah. NUFC Matters Join the Dots T-shirt is going up for grabs on my Twitter tonight. You will have 6 days to bid for it. The highest bidder wins it, and all proceeds go to the food bank. And just to say, we have newworkwear.com, specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, as our main sponsors for the month of November. They sponsor our StreamYard app, and qtechshop.co.uk also sponsor us. Big thank you to them, who they make pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, amongst other stuff, including our T-shirts. And they are the ones who donate them for the food bank as well. You can have a look at them on our website, newcastlelegends.com. Also got the face masks on there as well, which have just started selling. And another thing for the food bank, we have the calendar. All proceeds from that are going to the food bank as well. So if you fancy a look on there, get yourself on newcastlelegends.com. Click on tickets on there, and you will be able to find all those goodies. Question I'm going to ask you, and it's what a lot of people are asking, is, does this, although it sounds like it's really good news for us, this, Liam, on the takeover front, is this going to delay things even more? Is it going to speed things up, or is it too early to tell?
It is a bit early to tell. The thing is, this is something that can happen quite quickly. There's a lot of people out there have been saying it's a really long process, but it is something, the basis of this law is something, it can go through reasonably quickly if it's a CAT case. If it goes through CAT, expecting that it may well be done within 5 months. I've seen that Mark Douglas, the Chronicle, was on board with that last night. He printed that for this morning. It's 100% true that 5 months is the kind of deadline that we're probably looking at here. And I think if that's the case, then I think we probably could have a deal that remains on the table for that length of time. While legal proceedings are ongoing, we're probably all right. If it goes into years, then who knows? Then we're in the realms of not really knowing whether buyer will walk away, seller will get annoyed and not want to push it through. You just don't know. That's when the variables come in. But there is no reason to say this can't go reasonably quickly. The one caveat, and this is a massive caveat to be fair, is that the Premier League will do everything in their power to delay and delay and delay. We've seen it already. 3 weeks since the letter before action was put out, and the Premier League have done nothing in the correspondence but delay and delay and delay. They're doing it again with the most recent correspondence in the nine-page document that is sent through in the last 24 hours. So it would not shock me if the Premier League pull every stunt possible to make sure that this does not go to court. They'll try and make sure that they'll try and discredit NCSL. They'll try and discredit their arguments. They'll try and make sure that it doesn't get fast-tracked. They'll make sure that they'll try their best to make sure there is no disclosure. They will do everything in their power to make sure that this does not air their dirty laundry in public and make sure this does not go to court. But you've got to remember, this is really basic. It's very, very basic, the situation we find ourselves in, despite it might seem complicated. We've got a willing buyer. All three parties, they want to buy Newcastle United Football Club. They've agreed a price. Mike Ashley wants to leave Newcastle United Football Club. He's agreed a price. He wants to walk a willing seller. And we've got a willing fan base who are desperate, with the help of NCSL, who are driving this on behalf of the fans. Everybody wants this to go through, bar a small minority. Why can't it be done? There is nothing stopping this deal being done. The Premier League are delaying and delaying and delaying. And we all know they have their own reasons for that. And that's the big problem. They are the problem. Everybody needs to stop attacking each other, attacking NCL, attacking this fan group, that fan group, attacking the club, Ashley, whoever it may be. Everybody needs to just realise what the problem is here. The common denominator, the problem in all of this is the English Premier League. And that's who NCSL are attacking. And that's why everyone should get right behind them.
Yeah, you're not going to get any arguments from me. We've backed the lads from the start as soon as they came out. And I think the fact that we know who they are does help us. But I know a lot of people don't like anonymity, don't like the fact that, there is people in our fan base who feel that people shouldn't be speaking for other supporters and, all of that kind of thing. But these guys are doing the right thing. So please, retweet them, follow them, give them as much support as you can, and I'm sure we'll get the, answers that we want, and eventually we'll get the result that we want. Look, as I've said all along since March, since I started these shows, I could be wrong, but my gut instinct and the fact that I've met Amanda and Mirdad and the guys, for me personally, I feel this will go through. These aren't quitters. They're not walking away. As you've just said, Mike Ashley wants to sell the club, and Mike Ashley hates being told what to do as well. And if the Premier League are telling him he can't do it, there'll be a way around it. There will be a way around it. They might not have thought of it yet, but there will be a way around it. Something will happen, whether it's legal or whatever. I am convinced it'll happen. When it'll happen, who knows? But I guarantee there will be something goes on over the next few months, and I think Newcastle will have new owners. But listen, if it doesn't happen, we haven't given false hope. We've given our opinion, and that's what people should always remember. This is a show, just like all the other podcasts. Other podcasts have different journalists on with different opinions. If you want that opinion or that's opinion you believe in, watch that. Come on here for an alternative view. That's what we are. But I like to think that the people who are connected with this show have got a lot of experience in this particular genre, shall we call it. Steve Hasty, Mitch, were heavily involved in the BZG takeover. Look what's happening there. They're buying Derby. They're not making it up. They're not talking rubbish. They're not inventing things. Those guys were heavily involved in that. Do you know what I mean? I have met Amanda. That puts me slightly ahead of people who haven't met Amanda. I know what she's like, and I haven't just met her the once. I know a lot about her. And from my perspective, that puts me in that position. You've met the guys who are behind this fans organisation. You know what they're all about. You've spoken to them. You've been in discussions with them. I don't think we can say any more, Liam, but I just, I'm pleased that we have so many people who are tuned in tonight who get a chance to hear this message and pass it on to their mates, at work or, on Twitter or on social media, or drop them a text. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe. If you're a first-time watcher, please subscribe. Please give the video a like. All you need to do is hit the thumb. And if you want to support us and you want to donate something, join the channel. Just join the channel. It's not rocket science, and it's not very expensive. Just join. It helps us. We all do this for free in our own spare time. Liam burns pizzas, I burn chips. We've got jobs to do. We've got our family, but we do this because we're Newcastle fans and we want to try and keep everybody up to date. Nathan says, Liam, when do the fans group want the Premier League to decide? I mean, again, I think we'll get a lot of questions we probably can't answer. You can't answer tonight.
Look, Nathan, the simple answer to that is yesterday. They want the Premier League to have already done this weeks ago, and they're in the same position as everybody. They've got the full support of buyer and seller behind them. They've got the full support of the fans, and they want the decision yesterday. This isn't a tough decision for the Premier League to make if they stick to their very clear rules in their own handbook. If they stick to that, they pass this deal. If there's other agendas at play, I suspect there is. If there is, then they'll get found out. They will get found out. It might not happen this week or next week, but it will. There will come a day where they get found out. They're already tripping themselves up. They're already tripping themselves up with their legal letters. So it's not boding well for them. We'll wait and see how this plays out. And on that point you made before, Steve, I like to think I come on here to give people as much information that I know about certain subjects. They can go away, come on here and question me. And if I can answer it, I will. If I can't, I won't. But I don't want to shape anybody's opinion. Make your own minds up. That's all I've ever said through this. Join the dots. I'll give you as much information as I possibly and legally can give you, which I tend to do. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll know that. And it's essentially up to you guys then out there to really join it all up and believe what you want. There's a lot of doubters out there. There's a lot of people who doubted that this legal action from the outset 3 weeks ago had any legs at all. The Premier League will laugh it out. They won't even reply. Well, they replied. They didn't just reply once. They've replied numerous times. Not only have they replied numerous times, substantively, they've really gone into detail and provided almost explanations for things they weren't even accused of. They've really gone to town. And this just essentially shows how seriously they are taking it. They make it very clear that they don't want this to go to court. But I'm afraid if they're not going to be transparent and clear and give this takeover a fair hearing, which is all anybody asks for, just follow your own rules and pass or fail this takeover. They couldn't even pass or fail it. They just let it roll on, and they're playing for time. It's like a batsman with 1 wicket left. That's all they're doing. They're just trying to bat out time. And it's not going to work forever. This is 2 movements now against you. And who's to say there isn't going to be more? They really cannot run and hide forever. They need to face up to the mistakes they've made, if they've made any at all. And if you haven't made any mistakes at all, Premier League, just tell everyone you haven't and show them why. Prove to everybody that you haven't made any mistakes and you've done everything by the letter of the law, haven't been influenced by any outside bodies, haven't been leaking information to unscrupulous sources. Just come and show everybody then. But they won't. They will not do that because we all suspect that they have been. So we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah, what do you think of the freedom of information submitted, says Richard?
I don't know what to say about it, really. I thought it was a very strange angle. But each to their own. I mean, if it had got the information, some kind of information out there, then fine. But I find it very unusual that I don't think the government are ever going to come out and say, "Oh, yeah, our fingerprints are all over that. We've been trying to get this through." I just didn't quite get the angle that it was coming at from. But I suppose you'd have to ask the writer himself as to why he went down that route. But I honestly don't know. Yeah,
really strange. Yeah, a lot of people asking about the band. I keep forgetting it because we get soaked up in Newcastle United stuff. That's the title of the single, Worlds Collide. That's the song that we'll play at the start and the end of the show. The band is called the Long Sands. I used to manage them. The COVID outbreak unfortunately put a hold on the comeback, but the whisper has it that the lads may be reforming in 2021, but it's not been announced yet. What I will do is I'll add a few videos that we did of the lads when I was managing them. 2 albums out there, 2 great albums as well, well worth a listen. So yeah, apologies for not getting back to everybody sooner whenever they ask that. Wayne Bennett says, Liam's takeover talk always gives me the goosebumps and gets me all excited and gives me a high. Interesting. And okay, off the takeover, because I think you've covered everything that we can cover on that. I know we could sit and talk about it all night, but there is other things going on at the football club. And Daniel's asked thoughts on the comments made by Miggy's agent. I feel if we go beyond summertime with Bruce still here, he probably will leave. So yeah, interesting comments. Robert Rojas, I think, is it his agent, who came out with that and put it out there onto social media. What was your take on that?
I think there's a number of facets to this one. I'll try and run through them all. So we'll start off with the agent. I think the agent's been really, really troublesome for the player in this sense. He's almost every opportunity with a transfer window just around the corner. He does do a little bit of mischief making. I mean, that's the job of some agents, but he's very vocal in the sense that he's done it twice now, but before the January window this time and before the summer window last time, talking of Atletico Madrid or the Premier League clubs. It isn't really helpful for the player, I'll be honest. Do I think, go to the player himself, do I think the player has played well enough this season? No, I don't think he has. I don't think he's played well enough at all. Do I think he's a good player? Yeah, I do. I do think he's a good player. And has he been playing out of position? Certainly hasn't been playing left back like was being suggested. But he has been playing in a bit more of a grafting defensive role in that central midfield three in recent weeks. And you know what? I think he is better further forward. But I still think he should be able to do a job for the side in there. And the frustrating thing about the Bruce stuff is that we've got a player now not talking about like wanting to leave Newcastle United because he wants to go and win trophies or wants to go to a big club, or as we've seen people talk about that in the past. We're actually talking about a player's agent coming out and saying, my player wants to leave because he wants a bit of the ball. That's effectively what he said. He was like, I want a team with a little bit more possession and playing a bit more forward thinking side. Incredible. But Newcastle are rubbish. Like, we've all watched them for a year and a half. They've been terrible. There's been flashes of brilliance, but they've been really, really poor. Poor with the ball and poor without it. So it's no surprise that you've got factions within the dressing room, and I wouldn't say it's just one, that are unhappy at the moment because the team isn't playing well. They're not having much of the ball. They're not really creating much. They're not really getting much chance to enjoy their football. And although these lads are professionals, they're also footballers, and we've all played. For most people out there that played football, there's an enjoyment about playing with your mates and getting on the ball and having the ball and doing, being involved in things. Newcastle United are passengers in football matches most of the time. They're passive. They allow the opposition to basically dictate the play. And then when they're at their best, they're in attack and a counter-attacking side. When they're at their worst, they're a nothing side who doesn't do either, doesn't defend properly and doesn't attack properly. So it's no surprise that you've got players that are getting upset with the way things are going. So in summary, I think you've got a bit of a troublemaker agent. You've got a player who probably is unhappy, but that shouldn't really be a surprise to anybody. Is unhappy with the tactics of the manager, which I think, again, nobody should be surprised at that. Do I think he'll leave? Probably not, no. I don't think he'll leave because I think Newcastle United would want to make a considerable amount of money on the player, and I just don't think anybody would be really willing to pay that at the moment. But I could be proved wrong. That's just my personal opinion. Is he really doing enough to warrant a move to a top 3 La Liga side and warrant a move to a Champions League club at the moment? And you would have to argue, as much as I really do like him as a player, you'd have to argue that he isn't.
Yeah, I would agree. Life goals and other people asking about Amanda's court case with Barclays. At this moment in time, it's a case of waiting now for a verdict until probably after Christmas. Could be just before Christmas, could be just after Christmas. Again, COVID affecting everything. Not sure exactly when that is, but we have been asked that before. And I think we both said either before Christmas or just after Christmas, December, January. That's when we're going to hear something about that. And either Amanda will have a lot of hefty legal fees to pay and will be a few quid skinter, or she will be very, very rich. So either way, it's a toss of a coin. Let's see how it goes. But it seemed to go well from what I saw when it was covered live on the link that was shared around. Lots of questions coming in, and as always, we'll probably not get through them all, but I want to try and make it a bit of a variety. A question that we got asked, we asked the girls and we asked the lads from the worldwide squad on Sundays, next 5 games, what do you see the points total being? Obviously, we've got Chelsea at home. first of all on the weekend, but we don't have. I mean, there's no home crowd. There's no home advantage. I keep saying I don't really think it counts. But obviously we've got Chelsea. Then we have Crystal Palace away. Then we have Aston Villa away. Then we have West Brom at home, and then we have Leeds away. So it's a tough set of games when you're in the kind of form we're in. What kind of points total are you expecting, Liam?
Do you know what? I think Newcastle United are the type of side that are unpredictable, and I could see them going and getting results at a couple of those places. Yes, they're difficult, but the likes of games against Leeds, against Palace, they're probably going to be really tight. It's probably going to be a goal either way. He'll settle that game, and I could see Newcastle getting a result. I would write the weekend off. I don't see Newcastle getting anything against a very good Chelsea side. Yes, they haven't been as good as they probably could have been this season after the outlay that they had in the summer, but they're still a fantastic side. So I would really just write the weekend off. But beyond that, I don't see why Newcastle can't at least pick up from the next 5, at least another couple of wins. That would be my take on it. But happy to be proved wrong. Happy to be proved right as well, because we need the points.
Okay, Damien says, I think you missed the point on Nathan's comment. He said, when do the fans want the Premier League to decide? And right, okay, it's too much. I'm watching I'm a Celebrity. That's about as much of Ant and Deck I get. Never mind going into cryptic stuff like that. And I'm more used to joining the dots, not fiddling around with letters. So Darren says, Liam, if Ashley sold, say, 10% of the shares to Piff and Amanda and Reuben Brothers, meaning we have 4 owners, would there still need to be an owners and directors test? Now, funny enough, that's what I was saying about finding an alternative route. It's possible, isn't it?
Look, I think the way that the deal has been set out is the way that everybody wants it to go. But we'll have to wait and see. Would they have to? You know what? You've stumped us here. It's that long since I've went through all of the legal regulations of the
all the permutations.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'll have to come back. Ask the question next week, and I'll have your answer.
I think there could be 2. I think there's a handbook for the Premier League, and I think there's a handbook for Newcastle at the Premier League. That's what I think. It's got that feeling, hasn't it? I mean, is that just Geordie paranoia? Because I mean, we always seem to have this kind of feeling that it's us against them. And for me,
and it hasn't. I've always stood in the camp that nah, we're not hard done to. It's not, man. It's just we feel that way. Genuinely, we have been hard done to here, and we've got a right to fight for that. And everybody needs to really stick together and get behind it, because there's one common enemy here, and it's the Premier League. Everyone needs to fight to get this deal through, because not only is it going to be transformative for Newcastle United, it's going to be transformative for people's jobs out there. I know my job will be transformed. It's going to be transformative for communities. It's like the money that will flood into this area, not only as initial investment, but in sort of knock-ons and subsequent investments and the type of people who will be regularly traveling to the area. That kind of money will trickle and filter and touch households across the region, not just in Newcastle. It really is something that we need to fight for. These opportunities don't come along very often. We had one chance. Mike Ashley could have sold to Sheikh Mansour, but didn't. This is the second opportunity that we get. Not many clubs get 2 chances at this. We could have been Man City, we weren't. We could be even better now with these guys at the helm, and we need to fight for it. If there's any chance, we've got to fight for it. That's the way I feel about it. I'll do anything I can to help these guys out or help the cause, not by promoting false hope, as you said. I just tell people what the facts are, the facts that I'm presented with, and I managed to find out off sources, etc., and let you make your mind up. But this could be transformative, and there's still a chance we can get it done. There's a good chance we might be able to get it done. And NCSL are a really integral part of that.
Yeah, 100%. Christopher Green up asking when Wilson's back. We've seen lots of different reports about Wilson, including a fan who bumped into him in a park, who then stuck it up onto his Facebook group and said that Wilson said it wasn't as bad as he thought, and he should be back very soon. So, what is the true news on Callum Wilson?
It's hard to know. I think we'll know more by the end of the week, but it's a big ask to see that he'd be back this weekend. I think the week after is a more realistic target. But again, with these things, a lot of it depends on the tear that he's got, etc. Same with Ryan Fraser. We'll know more on Friday when Steve Bruce decides whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 6 weeks or whatever he may say this time, as he did with Dwight Gale a couple of weeks back. I think I talked about that last week. He said he'd be back within 2, 3 or 4 weeks. Well, that's quite a wide range. So we'll see what Steve Bruce says on Friday. But I expect You would expect this weekend will probably come too soon.
Okay, Life Goals' question about injuries probably ties in with what I was going to ask you next, and that's about Paul Dummett. He's had a bit of a setback, according to reports.
Yeah, it's such a shame for the lad. And his career in a lot of ways has been blighted by that. Like, he's always never really completed a season, always been able to do sort of 60% of a season and then fell off the cliff with an injury. It's just a sad one for him because he was fighting back towards fitness. He's a really valuable player to have. Works fantastic in that back three and can be used if needed. Is a solid Premier League left back as well if needed. Just a sad one for him. But it is mentioned there that people talk about the homegrown players, but we've seen by the long staff, just getting these lads fit is really, really difficult. Is there a deeper problem there? I think that's what they were suggesting with that question. It's impossible to know. It really is impossible to know. But a lot of the homegrown lads have, over the years, suffered with really injuries that have just taken so much of that playing time away. Think about, like you say, Stephen Taylor, Shola Amiobi was another. There's lots of these lads who've come through the academy and that just don't seem to be able to shake these really consistent injuries that they pick up. And Paul Dummett is the latest in a long line.
But a message from Binsey. We need a Brewster on Twitter. He says, Wallace isn't happy. I've burnt the tea listening to Liam Kennedy.
Let's go to the chip, you'll be worried.
He says, go to the chippy, Binsey. He'll be all right, son. Gregory Monk says, do you think Rafa will really end up at Derby? That was a turn up for the books. Obviously, they're going to have a few quid to spend. And we know Rafa's contract in China was £12 million a year. And I don't think he was on peanuts at Newcastle either. But is that realistic? Do you think he would go to Derby, or do you think he'll hang out for a Premier League club?
It's no surprise to see Rafa Benitez's name being bandied about a little bit with jobs that are available, may become available, because I think it's been quite obvious to see from it's not necessarily the results. It's more that he sounded like a very unhappy man, almost unable to implement the kind of ideas, style of play, ethos on a Chinese populace and playing staff. It's sad because I think he had big plans over there. He's definitely been sort of financially rewarded for that trip over there, but he does have another year left on his contract, so we'll have to wait and see what his next decision is. And he always has in his career been somebody who doesn't favour breaking contracts, so it would cost a lot for anybody to buy him out of it, we're told. So it'd be interesting to see, but it's no surprise that he is being linked because he belongs back in English football. He's a fantastic manager, and it would be a little bit disappointing to see him turn off somewhere else, but I think it's probably inevitable if we continue in this vein and Mike Ashley remains as manager. I don't envisage Rafa Benitez ending up back in Newcastle under his watch anyway.
If you're a first-time visitor to the channel, click subscribe, please. It's free. Stick the thumb up as well to like the video. It all helps us with the channel. James Brown says, see Paul Dummett's out injured. We've just talked about that. Do you think the club should make a move for Jethro Williams? Something a lot of people feel would be great. I keep saying as long as he comes back the same player that he was, I would probably go in for him. But is that a possibility, do you think?
It's a possibility because he's a player that's well liked at Newcastle United. Is there a possibility that he'll be fit enough to then walk back into a Premier League side in January? I think that would be the biggest question mark that everybody should have over that kind of deal being done. It could be. Would I put any money on it? Probably not. But I do know he is a player that is liked by the management team and well liked in the dressing room as well.
Big shout out to Stephen Coulson, who's just managed to grab a great photograph of us, both online. Stuck it on Twitter. I'll stick it over to you, mate. You can have a look. It's a good one. Wayne Bennett says, question for you both. Since you've supported Newcastle, is this the most disjointed and poorly managed team you've seen, plus the worst manager we've had? Is Bruce really this clueless? I'll answer that. It's not the worst team I've seen. The relegation team in 88, 89 was the worst team I've seen. Dave Besant in goal. For somebody who was 6'12" or whatever he was, he kept getting lobbed. We had a goalkeeper who was about 6'12". We had a front line who were all about 5'8", and we kept playing the long ball over to the top. We had John Robertson, Mirandina, John Hendry, and we had Dave Besant booting the ball over the top of them. Absolutely farcical. That was the worst team I've seen. And the attendances, if you look through the records, that was one of those years where the crowds diminished. And, We have a pop at Sunderland for not turning up. I tell you what, have a look at the crowds from that period of time. It was absolutely empty at times. Awful, awful, awful days. So to be honest, Wayne, I know where you're coming from. I'm 48. I don't know how old you are, but that with experience, unfortunately, comes worse seasons. And if I ever want to cheer myself up, I'm down and upset with Newcastle United and Steve Bruce and whatever, I go and dig that DVD out and I stick it on, and I think it could be worse. I also would look 10 miles down the road and go, it could be worse. I could be a Mackin. What about you, Liam?
Worst team. I think it would go a long way to be as disjointed as that season, the first relegation season under Mike Ashley. I think the changes at the top, the management, the squad that was there, the lack of harmony within it, I think it would go a long way to sort of picking that one apart. But I do kind of feel that this team and the way it's set up is the one that looks like the team that's been set up with the worst game plan, a real lack of ideas, a real lack of direction and clear identity. There was no real identity to this Newcastle United side. I think when you look back to that side in was it 2008, 2009, there was a lot of individuals. There was quality within that squad, but it was really disjointed and wasn't helped by the sort of scattergun approach from up top. But this one, it's hard to know, is there really that much quality in this squad? I'm not really sure there is. Is there really that much togetherness? There's a bit. We've seen them come back in games, but they're not really known for that. I struggle with this side. It's very boring and very dull. There is nothing to get really excited about. More so than last season, because at least now we've got a proper. He's not the number 9, but he's a proper number 9, and that's something that Newcastle United fans can pin their hat on. But beyond that, this team is as a collective, the way it's set up is dreadful. Now, do I believe there is personnel there that could be set up differently? And could they get a tune out of these players? Yeah, I do, because I don't believe that they're the worst team in the Premier League. I don't believe they are by far. I don't believe it's the worst squad in the Premier League by far. So I do think you could get a decent tune out of this side, but it is very dull and very boring to watch at the moment. And it wouldn't have surprised me if crowds had started to dwindle a little bit, even if everybody could go, because this is dull. It's a really dull watch from start to finish. And we're kind of pinned our hopes in the last 18 months on these moments. And I've mentioned on here before, there has been moments. Longstaff against Manchester United. Last time we played Chelsea, Isaac Hayden in the last moment. Those are the type of moments that don't come around very often. Almiron scoring his first goal from last season. Bournemouth away, that fantastic performance. There has been real flashes of brilliance in this side, but all too often it's just dross, which is what we're seeing dished up on a regular basis. I would say this season, bar the Everton game, which I thought was quite a complete performance, there hasn't really been much in terms of a setup that suited them, a system that they've played well to, and a personnel that Bruce has picked that's really sort of played well against the opposition. So I think this is pretty dreadful, and it wouldn't surprise us if many people out there agree and think this is the worst team they've seen because of that reason, not because of the results, but because it's just idealist, clueless.
Yeah, I would agree. #9Talk. Good evening. Great show as well. If you want to pop onto there, he's on YouTube. If Bruce gets sacked or walks, who would you think would be a possible good appointment? Again, we've been asked this question on numerous occasions. Lots of names get bandied around, but the bottom line is it depends if there's been a takeover, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just think I respect you saying the question, but it's just a bit pointless. Steve Bruce is going nowhere. He's going nowhere under Mike Ashley's watch, so it's a bit of a. And do you know what? If you looked at the results, the position they find themselves in the league, the points they've got, the cup run, doesn't deserve the sack either. But that's just looking at it from an outsider's position. We see the football every week, and it is dreadful. But I don't think he's getting the sack. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So I think it's pointless. I mean, we could look at it and could say, would you look at somebody like a Steven Gerrard? They looked at him last time. Yes, he's a quality manager and is actually doing a really, really solid job now at Rangers. Somebody like that. Yes, you would. But that's kind of the mark Newcastle United find themselves in. And I'd like to think that a takeover, we can sort of be dreaming a little bit higher than that.
Yep, me too. Tom Dixon says, "Who would you start as striker against Chelsea?" Obviously, Wilson. Not going to be fit for that. Yeah, not much options really, is there?
No, it's a debate that we do a podcast at the Shields Gazette as well, and we talked a lot about this in the week. We do Mouth of the Time pod, and there was I do with Miles Starforth and Jordan Cronin, who also work at my newspaper, and we had a big debate about this and the idea that does Andy Carroll start, because Andy Carroll's probably a bit cuter and a bit cleverer in terms of we won't have much ball, so maybe he will be a good out ball to win a free kick and take some pressure off, that kind of thing. I kind of counter that with the idea is that his lack of mobility up front would make him really a passenger in the game most of the time. So we'll have to wait and see. Joe Linton is probably the one I would go for. He's got a little bit more mobility. Doesn't quite hold it up as well, but I would probably go for Joe Linton. And it's a really tough choice. People have suggested Alan St. Maximin could play that in like a false nine type role, but I don't think it suits him in any way, shape, or form being that far up the pitch. Not as far as he's been up as in a number 10 recently. So I'd probably go for Joe Linton, but like I say, it's probably a best of a bad bunch.
Yeah. The next question, Thomas, he's put a few questions out. Hi, Thomas. Good evening. This is a bit bizarre. If you could take 3 people to a disco night out, who would it be? I've got to be careful, because my wife sometimes watches this. I'm going to say I'm going to take.
I'm having the 3 amigos. That's it. That's what we're doing after lockdown. We're going for a disco night.
We're going for a disco night out. Yeah, well, that's good, because I'll come with you, Steve Hasty and Neil Mitchell. And what I'll do is I'll invite Amanda Staveley, Jamie Rubin, and Mike Ashley. And they can pay for the drinks.
Where we're going, Steve?
I tell you what, of them 3 are coming. We're going down the West End, and I don't mean Elsick. I mean West End of London. That's where we'll be going. What's your thoughts about Savage and Sutton trying to justify Bruce at Newcastle? It's just another situation, isn't it, where these pundits get paid to basically drive people and traffic towards their particular channels. And I keep trying to tell people this, and people don't listen. But TalkSport in particular, it really relies on hits, on people connecting, etc. Everybody does. We do with this channel. If people weren't watching it, would we put the same type of effort in? But they just do it by being controversial, because they know Newcastle fans are like piranhas. And once one person has the huff about it and puts it on Twitter, everybody goes in, don't they?
Yeah, it's just attention seeking of the highest order. That's all it is, effectively. And they do that. They've got to keep themselves relevant. They've got to have opinions, and do you know what? It's valued in this game now that having stark opinions, no matter how stupid they may be, tends to get bigger reactions. So you'll see people just playing that game. And Chris Sutton, I worked in Scotland for about 5 years. I mentioned it on the show last week. And Chris Sutton was a regular on Sky up there. He was a regular on BBC Scotland. And he was purely known for winding other pundits up. He was purely known for winding players up, winding managers up. And he was a bit of a joke character, really, but then was picked up down here by the BBC again. And then he's off on one all of a sudden down here. But he's made a good career for himself as a pundit by spouting rubbish most of the time, or deliberately digging at people just to get reactions. Robbie Savage is Robbie Savage. He's a character. He's been doing the rounds down here for years. I mean, I would just urge anybody out there just to not get wound up by these people. They don't know. They haven't got a clue. They don't watch us every week, and they're just doing it for a reaction. So just let them have their airtime and don't react. Don't react.
Yeah, I love this tweet. Cheers, Rafa Benitez is God. I was right. It is the worst season. The lowest scoring season in Newcastle history, 1988-89. Good knowledge. I'll know that next time for the quiz. Bruce's last season was the 3rd lowest scoring season in Newcastle history. And 1997 was the 2nd least. So that must have been Dalglish's watch, was it 97? Depends. Was it Dalglish and then Hullett? Dalglish. Wow, I didn't know that at all. Wilfred's just paying us compliments. He says we're both looking cool. I'm not sure about twin brother, but we're both looking cool. Thanks very much, mate. Life Goal says McLaren was worse than Bruce. I think that's clear. Also under Dalglish, the football was awful after he dismantled the squad by selling Les Ginola, Beardsley Asprilla, and others. in the first year. And Naka Ned says his wife's very impressed with what she's heard so far. That's a first. She's never said that to us. Cheers for your support, mate. We've covered this as well, but let's talk about it again briefly. Do you know when Dubravka should be back, and would you put him straight back into the first 11 if you were Bruce?
Second question first. Yes, I would. For the reason that he is the number one, and he's proven for 2-3 years that he is the number one for a reason. And to be honest, if you'd asked this question 2 months ago, you would not have had any doubts from anybody. That doesn't mean that Cardolo hasn't done fantastically well. He has, but he's not the number one, and he's not the number one for a reason, because Martin Dubravka is a better goalkeeper than him, and has proven that regularly in the top division and other competitions. When will he be back? I think we're still looking at December for him coming back. We'll wait for an update on Friday, but Steve Bruce did say the international break would be good for him, John Joe Shelby, Matt Ritchie, the likes of them. So fingers crossed, we could have a little bit of news this week, but it was looking most recently when I last checked, we're probably looking at December. He obviously had that setback. He was getting the wrong treatment on an injury, and it's just delayed this. He probably should have been back by now had he been getting the correct treatment. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I think December is probably realistic. And you know what? It's not a bad problem to have. We're actually talking about potentially taking a really informed goalkeeper out of the team. I really feared at times in the summer when we found out the extent of the injury to Martin Dubravka, we might be talking about Cardolo costing Premier League points, because he's a good goalkeeper, but he is number two, and he proved in that championship season that as good as he can be, he's got the odd rick in him, and he did make mistakes. So we'll wait and see. I think December's probably what we're looking at, and for me, he walks straight back in. He has to, because he's the best goalkeeper at the football club.
Yep. Newcastle United's takeover is trending on Twitter tonight, along with Sainsbury's Christmas, Dillian White against Deontay Wilder, and Rolf Harris. I'm not going to go into that. Michael Hurst says, hi, Steve, Liam, what are your hopes for Newcastle in 2021? Well, in one word, takeover for me.
Yeah, takeover, and a new beginnings, a new dawn, and a proper future, a future that we can all get excited about. Because everybody wants it. The only people who don't want it's the Premier League. So let's get it done. Let's get it sorted. Stop all the messy talk. Stop all the leaks. Stop all the problems that are being presented at your door. Just get back around the table with them. Sort it out. And just drop your silly requests that you haven't asked of other football clubs. Just stop your silly requests and let them pass the deal, because you almost passed them. You got to a point where they'd pretty much ticked all of your boxes, and then you just kept adding more. Just get rid of the stupid requests and let's just move on. And let Newcastle United be a part of something. Let us come back to the party, because for too long we've been locked out.
Yep, Jeff Willock says 1977-78, before mine and Liam's time, I think, season. Bobby Shinton, top scorer on 7 goals. The football was abysmal. 1 win all season at home. West Ham, I believe. Relegation came as a relief. Kamikaze says, look at Southampton. Arguably on paper, we have a better team. Yet prior to the day, they beat us. They had just been hammered 9-0 by Leicester. They beat us and go top of the league coaching. So talking a little bit about, other teams around us, etc. Yeah, Freddie Shepherd. Hi, Freddie. From somebody pretending to be Freddie Shepherd says, get Richie back in, leader and motivator. We need someone like that to give him all a kick up the backside. He's back training, isn't he, Liam?
He is back. He is back. But is he a player that you would bring in? Where do you bring him in? I wouldn't bring him in for Jamal Lewis. I know he hasn't had the most amazing of starts, but I do quite like the player. I think he's a decent player, so I wouldn't be bringing Matt Ritchie in on that idea. And would you be dropping an attacking player to bring him in? Well, probably not. I know Alan St. Maximin hasn't been playing very well, but does Matt Ritchie fit in there? Does he play ahead of a fit Ryan Fraser? Does he play ahead of a fit Miguel Almiron? Not for me. He's been a good player for Newcastle United, but I would think he's probably his better days are probably slightly past him. So I think he's still got a part to play, but is he a player that would bring immediately straight back into the side? Probably not.
Lots of people asking about the takeover. It's at the start of the show, so if you missed the start, you'll have to go back. We did about 15 minutes about it at the start, about the breaking news on the Shields Gazette's website and Liam's couple of stories. So get yourself onto the Shields Gazette website and read all about that. No progression, 110 million net spend by Bruce. That deserves sacking. A lot of people will be agreeing with you. I think if we don't get many points out of the next few games, it's a hell of a lot of money, isn't it, Liam?
It's a lot of money to spend in basically a season and a half is effectively what he's had presented, that kind of money and those kind of level of players into his squad. And unfortunately, Newcastle United are no further forward than they were this time last year or before that.
Yeah, we did see just a quick comment there from Moxie. Says big sympathies to coach Stephen Clements, whose dad Ray died over the weekend. We paid our respects on the day when that happened, but I'm sure it's a tragic loss. We've lost so many people this year, Liam.
Yeah, it does. It just seems like you lose another one every week, isn't it? But that's the way it is, unfortunately.
Rafa Benitez as God supports the Gerrard movement. I'm not sure that would happen. Like, I've got to be perfectly honest. Colin Wilson says good football isn't nowhere near as good to watch without the fans in the ground. Steve Bruce's football is purgatory. He's very lucky there aren't any fans in the ground. What a great use of the word purgatory. And if you don't know what that means, have a look at it in the dictionary. It sums up Bruce's football in one. Question, Liam, why do you think the pundits support Bruce so much when surely they know his management record? Look, I mean, we did talk about it with Sutton, etc., a little bit earlier, and Savage, but it's just what we said before. Essentially, these people get paid to do a job, don't they? And they have to get sound bites, and Newcastle fans do jump on the bandwagon a lot, Liam. We did say it before, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I'm just laughing at one of them comments that came through there saying, please not Joe Linton because he is a false nine.
Yeah, he is a false nine, 100%. 100%. Tom Lynch points out that Savage and Sutton are 5 Live, not TalkSport. Yeah, I think the point I was trying to make, Tom, was that some of these people on these kind of channels, 5 Live and TalkSport, do it. And I feel TalkSport probably do it a little bit more than 5 Live. 5 Live, of course, is the BBC. Tend to be a little bit more stricter there. I heard an argument this morning on Good Morning Britain, where I think the BBC are now calling fishermen fisher people. So, they're quite strict at the BBC. TalkSport, not as strict, I don't think. Liam, are you single? I've got a beautiful sister to do if the takeover happens. You are my favourite journal. Wilfred, you've gone from comparing me and Liam to being twins to now trying to get him set up. He's very happily attached and he's got a family. Thanks, mate.
My wedding ring. No, I'm sorry. Those days are over.
God, I mean, I'll dress as Cilla Black for this show if this kind of thing happens on. Michael Hurst says, if you had 3 people over for Christmas, who would it be?
In this current climate, me family, I'd have me parents over, and and the in-laws as well, because that's going to be the most boring answer that you've ever. I think you're expecting a bit more than that, but I really would, because this is purgatory in a sense that nobody can really see anybody, nobody can go out, so that would be a real boost for me to know that we'd be able to sort of spend Christmas. The kids would be able to see their grandparents and would be able to do it lawfully, at least. I think that will probably be a big bonus for me.
Barry Hogan says, Liam, can you not cheer me up by saying anyone is going to buy Joe Linton and Shelby in January? Anthony Amos says, 88-89, all hope evaporated at Goodison on the opening day. Cotty hat-trick and we went downhill quicker than Franz Klammer. Very good. Scott Vivers asks about Jeff Hendrick. Would you start him at the weekend? Seems the knives are out amongst the fan base for Jeff Hendricks. And he didn't really get much of a chance from some supporters. I've got to be honest. I've defended him quite a bit on the show. I just think he's one of those players who's been a little bit bruised, and I think we haven't quite found the balance in the midfield. But would you start Jeff Hendricks at the weekend? We've got Chelsea at home and we've got 5 or 6 minutes left. So let's look ahead to that. We'll kind of get through all of these questions, unfortunately. So let's look ahead to Chelsea. It's, I'll
keep them sharp. I'll keep the answers sharp. No, I would start Matty Longstaff.
Okay. Proper question for Liam. Why do the new floodlights at South Shields Mariners ground have different colour lights around the outside?
I don't know. I quite like them. I think you can see them from miles off when you're driving into South Shields. I think they're really good. Johnny
asking, when are you allowed to open Money Mike Ashley again?
Me?
Adam Young says, should I keep my Mbappe at 10 shirt or order to be delivered August 2021?
I don't think PSG, Qatari owned, will be selling to a Saudi owned Newcastle United in a hurry. So get rid of it.
Yeah. Tom Dixon is repeating the question that was asked to the ladies last night. Do you think we'll get relegated?
No. And
Okay.
I think we'll finish probably in and around where we did last season, 13, something like that.
Okay. Sean Connor says, hi, Steve. Just wanted to say I'm really looking forward to the documentary. It's been a real breath of fresh air seeing you stand up to the trolls. When can we expect the documentary to land? It's been filmed over the next 2 weeks, Sean. I've had a really good response. I've got to be perfectly honest, mate. For most people will know that I've had, I've had 8 years of abuse really on Twitter, but I can take it. But then ultimately the tables were turned last week when somebody turned up in my street. So I've decided to take it to the trolls. I'm happy to say that about 75% of my regular trolls have either contacted me directly. We've either spoken on Zoom or we've exchanged messages on Twitter. I have locked down my account for personal reasons and just really because I don't want to get distracted from making the documentary. I've done all I can. I've taken it to them and I've had a good response. So I won't be doorstepping anybody. Certainly can't do that in COVID anyway. I did put a few things out there and obviously my rant last week was well received and people understood how passionate I was and angry I was that somebody chosen to take it that next step. So from my perspective, it's great. We've got an interview tonight, which I'll have to conduct on Zoom with a guy from Scunthorpe who set up a charity, and this charity was all done in good faith. It's actually a mental health charity. He has been basically bullied, cyber bullied by people. So I'm speaking to him. So it's not just focusing on Newcastle fans. We've had a teacher come and get in touch with Liam and I from Sheffield who is willing to come on and talk about the effects it has on young people. We have 2 people who are Newcastle fans who are willing to come on and talk about being trolled and trolling. So that is going to be fascinating to interview both of them. They've agreed to meet after lockdown, face to face on camera, which should be fascinating. So yeah, look, from our perspective, it's going to be put together very quickly. It's going to be free to view. It will hopefully be available on Amazon. We have to tick a lot of boxes to get on there. I already have documentaries which are on there, so hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. It's just the quality which we have to make sure is good. But it will be going on the YouTube channel and it will be free to view on here. So we want to get the message across. We will be launching a campaign as well. We are obviously, keen to get the message across that, you need to think before you tweet. So yeah, all in all, it's moving very quickly and I'm delighted to say that, we've had so much support. I do want to take this opportunity again, just to thank everybody for the support on here because, I've got a big, big support from friends and family, but, to have Newcastle fans get behind it as well means a hell of a lot.
No, it does. Do you know what, Steve? It's so sad that it came to this in the days after you launched that fantastic campaign as we went into lockdown, ringing people just to make sure everybody's all right. It was a real mindful thing. It was meant to look after people, and all of a sudden it's just been flipped on its head to the point where now we're talking about people just abusing people for no apparent reason. You've had to deal with it. I've had to deal with it in the past. And it's really sad. I just don't see why we can't all be nice. You know what I mean? It just think there before you. There's always somebody on the other end of this. And you might think you're being clever. You might think you're having a laugh among your mates and abusing somebody, but it's not nice. There's a lack of accountability to a large extent with social media. You're finding generations of younger kids growing up, not the same as when we grew up. That, sometimes if you disrespect somebody to their face, you might end up getting a clout. That's the way life used to be. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but there is a genuine lack of accountability now that people can say anything they want, no matter how disgusting, no matter how they're going to attack people. They're going to attack people in their workplace. They're going to attack people in their own home. They could be sitting watching TV, and all of a sudden you get abusive messages through. It's just not right, and there needs to be an accountability. There needs to be. I don't know how that would work, or whether Twitter or Facebook, or whoever would really push for that, but there has to be an accountability. There has to be traceable. It has to be able to go back to somebody. And I think this kind of thing needs to be taken seriously by not only Twitter, etc., but needs to be taken seriously by the police, because this is essentially bringing sort of illegal behaviour that you would get nicked for in the street, it brings it into people's homes. It's bringing it into people's homes across the Northeast, across the world. And it's something that I think should be clamped down upon. Look, we've all said things and done things that we didn't want to, or regret, or can't take back. But I think if everybody just tries their best to be as nice as they can be, even if you don't like somebody, just don't say that really awful thing that you've typed out and think you want to say to somebody. Just have a think about it and think, really, is it really worth me saying that? What impact is it going to have? Am I going to feel great for 5 seconds? But what about the person at the other end? Just always have a little think about that. And if we can all try to be better and all try to do that, then I don't see why anybody should have any problems. So let's not make somewhere like Twitter a toxic place to be. Let's make it a positive place to be. And even if you don't agree, let's have a proper conversation, but let's not get abusive about it. Let's not get personal, and let's not sort of digging into people's past, into the things they might have said or might have done, things that at the end of the day might be taken out of context. It's not right. It's not right. And I think there's too many people who take pleasure in that kind of thing. And we're always going to have that. There's always going to be, nasty people out there, but let's all just try and be the best people we can be. But not only in life, but on social media too.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Quick prediction for the Chelsea game, mate, at the weekend.
2-0 loss, probably.
Okay, mate. And just a quick, no, that's fair enough, mate. I'm going to give my prediction later on this week. And just give a quick plug, mate, where people can find your work.
You can find my work at the Shields Gazette. We do work behind a paywall. You get your first couple of articles for free, but then we work on a subscription model. So just believe me when I write these things, this isn't about clickbait. This isn't about clicks and hits, and I'm not interested in all that. What I effectively get the license to do is write quality stuff, speak to contacts, and get you the information that ultimately you want in this really challenging situation where we're in a bit of takeover stasis. Well, I have been for quite some time, but I'm fighting my best to get the information out there. And you can always subscribe. It doesn't cost a lot. A couple of quid for a couple of months, I think, was the last offer that we had. So get on the website, have a little look. I've put my Twitter handle in here. It's at Liam J. Kennedy 23. At the top of my feed, I've pinned a tweet. And the links to subscribe are there. If you like what I do on here, if you like what I do elsewhere, then please, if you can afford it, come on and just help out a little bit, because there's some fantastic journalism at the Shields Gazette. And do the same for Steve as well, because like you said earlier, we do this for nothing. We don't do it for pay. I don't do it because I'm an attention seeker. I want the attention. I actually quite enjoy the interaction with fans, and it's good sometimes, a bit of catharsis just to chat things through with you, Steve, as well. So we do this for free, and if you can help out Steve in any way with this podcast as well, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. And listen, great stuff. Great to have you on, as always. We have got a Twitter account now. Please just give it a follow, and we will add you. NUFC Toon Talk. And Alan Thompson says, Liam and Steve, Diplomat saved a young girl's life. 900 like, but 30 dislike. Quite unbelievable. 30 disliked it. So you're not alone. Great show, lads. Yeah, that's unfortunately the way it is. Anyway, we've mentioned it tonight. Please subscribe to the channel. We've had another 100 subscribers in the last few days, so thanks very much for that. Please give the video a like. Just click the thumbs up. And as always, we will be playing out this evening with our Phone a Friend video. It's a campaign that we started off for the month of November, with us all going back into lockdown. And from our perspective, we're just asking you to pick up the phone and call a family member or a friend that you haven't spoken to for a while, and just make sure that they are okay. I am actually back tomorrow night with the Retro Show. I will be joined by Steve Hasty, Neil Mitchell, George Mitchell. Stu is having a night off. I think we've got Steve Wilkinson with us tomorrow night, who's a great fan, a great replacement tomorrow night for Stu Penman. And I'll have Super Mac and Gibbo back on Thursday night. And then, of course, it'll be the Three Amigos on Friday. Liam, great to have you on, mate. Thanks, as always. Look forward to speaking to you next week. Take care, mate.
Cheers, Steve.